friends, it's Haley. Today we're doing a little special bonus episode because I'm really excited for you to get to know Meg, your host. We're going to turn the tables a bit in this episode and I'll be interviewing Meg. So fun.
Yay. Okay, I'm so excited and I'm a little nervous to have the tables turned on me. This is like, I feel like I'm on a first date, but in the best way.
Yeah, our first podcast date where you get to be the one being questioned.
Yes.
Don't be nervous. I'm here to make you feel comfortable on our first date.
Oh, good. Now it feels like a doctor's office or something.
No, it's not scary. Don't worry. It's really fun. Okay, so we could talk a little bit about the podcast and how we decided for you to be the host, and what do you think?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so this idea for a podcast came about probably 4 or 5 months ago, right?
Yeah, I know it was warm out. So I'm in New York and it's like literally 4 degrees here, friends. And I remember it was warm out because I had Acre in the baby carrier and we were talking on Marco Polo. So it had to have been like September or something, or October.
Okay. Yeah. So it's been a while. Yeah. And we were just talking and you were like, one of my dreams is to be a podcast host someday. And I was like, what? Really? And you were like, yeah. And I was like, why don't we start a podcast? That's like how it went, right? It was basically that.
Yeah, pretty much. It was so, and then, yeah, it just felt like we were just kind of like, wouldn't it be cool? And then all of a sudden it's just a thing and it's like happening.
I think we had talked about like as a business and just, I think podcasts are becoming much bigger, and both you and I kind of mentioned that there's not really a podcast that talks about all these different things that we are really interested in, that we know our current customers are interested in as well. Mm-hmm. And so we thought, well, that'd be kind of cool to like be able to be the ones giving that. Yeah. And then when you said that your dream was to be a host, I was like, well, that's perfect because that was never one of my dreams. Yeah. So it was like, but I think a podcast would be cool. I don't want to be the host, and you think a podcast would be cool and you do want to be the host. And it was like, well, this is like perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly how it went. We were literally I remember you saying like, so the interviewing part doesn't excite me. And I'm just like, where do I sign? It excites me.
Yeah.
I said that I was a mix of Ellen and Taylor Swift. I felt like I was like, if I could be a host, I would want to be like a mix of Ellen and Taylor Swift.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's perfect.
Right? I know.
I love it. And I think so. I mean, obviously I trust you, and I trusted you once you said that was your dream. I was like, well, this is perfect, because I think that the way that you talk with people and the way that you can like empathize with people is one of your absolute strengths, and you make people feel comfortable like instantly. Like as soon as we start talking with them, I know for me, like over Polo and everything, you make people feel comfortable, and I knew that any guest that came on would be in just the best of hands.
Oh, thank you. I love people. Seriously. Quarantine has been hard for me because I'm just like, can we hug again?
I know.
Can I smile at strangers?
Not behind a mask. I know. Yeah. It's true. Absolutely. Okay. So you shared a little bit about yourself in our episode 0, but we're going to go a little bit deeper to learn more about you. So I'm just going to ask you some questions. You just answer how you feel.
Okay.
Don't be nervous.
Okay.
Our first date is starting now.
Starting now.
Okay. So let's start from the very beginning, back when you were a little girl. Tell me about little Meg.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Little Meg. So I'm the youngest of 3. And I feel like I'm very like typical youngest. Just like I tried to use like my cuteness to get away with things a lot as a kid, for sure. And my dad always tells the story that like in the mornings I would get up and my brother would just like want to watch TV and chill. And I would always be like creating, like I would have some craft masterpiece at the table. And he's just like, can we just like relax at 6 a.m. and you're like crafting or building something. But so that was me. I was always like creating, or I would record myself like singing on like a cassette tape and just like about anything, literally anything. And
So that was
so
your Taylor Swift side coming out.
yeah, for sure. So that I was just very I don't know, free-spirited, outgoing, all of that. And I think it's like super ironic now being a podcast host because every single like elementary school report card, it all says like something along the lines of like, Meg is a great student, but could do better with less socializing, or like socializes a little too much. Like I was always talking and teachers would move my seat like away, like, oh, we're going to move you from this person because you talk too much. And then I'd just be like, hey, how are you? Like it didn't matter who I was next to. And so I just think it's so funny now that my job is to literally talk to people. And that was always my like downfall in school, was talking too much.
Yeah. You showed them teachers. Haha,
Yeah,
this
take
is my
that.
job now. I get paid to do this now.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's
all
the
you
best.
little listeners out there who can't stop talking, it'll be a gift one day.
Exactly. Just host your own podcast and
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
I love that. I love all those things. That's so fun. Okay. Next question.
Okay.
If you went to college, what did you go to college for?
Okay. So I went to college for 1 semester.
Okay. Love it.
So, and I went for social work. So I actually like didn't really want to go to college because it just didn't really feel like the right thing for me. But you know how it goes of like, it just the pressure of having to go and like needing or feeling like I needed to know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I really struggled with that. But I knew that like I loved people and I loved helping people. So I just chose social work, and I thought I would be a children's counselor. And social workers of the world need all of the praise. But I remember like sitting in class and there was a Department of Social Services like panel, and all different people stood up and kind of said like what they did. And I just left there and like called my mom crying, and I was like, I can't do this. I'll end up like adopting like 40 kids because I can't like, I just would not I'm too much of a softie. I would end up taking all the kids home.
Yeah. That's so funny. So you just went for 1 semester and then you were.
Yeah. So then I was like, I just kind of felt like this wasn't for me, and college is kind of expensive, as you guys know. And so I just left, and I felt really strong in that decision, but also really insecure and like kind of ashamed because everyone else was going. And I remember like longing to get out of the college age because I just was so over seeing people and them being like, what are you studying? How's college? That's all we ask 21-year-olds. So now when I see that age group, I'm like, don't ask them about college because maybe they don't want to be asked, or maybe that's just, So yeah, I struggled for a long time figuring out like what I wanted to do. So yeah, that was a roundabout answer of saying I only went for 1 semester.
That's so interesting because I actually went to grad school for counseling as well, career counseling though. And I dropped out after 1.5 semesters because very similar reasons. I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and I don't think I'm cut out for it. And then, I ended up starting Whimsy and Wellness a little bit after that.
Look, see,
I know, but I totally relate to that feeling of like, I don't know what I want to do. And everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, what do you want your job to be? That is just like, I don't know. And even when I was in college, I mean, I eventually just chose a major to finish, but I was like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah. And I think it's so much more common than we think inside. I think it's
Mhm.
just like normal to act like we know what we're doing, whether it's career or something else. Like we feel like we have to act like we have it all together. So then just more and more people feel alone. But I just think it's more common than not for people to be like, I don't know what I want to do.
Mhm.
And I remember just being really upset about this whole topic like a year ago. And Dave saying to me, just don't focus on what, who do you want to be? And that was like this huge light bulb moment for me. Like, if we can just figure out who do I want to be and like really get clear on that, like, how do I want to make people feel? And, all of that who, then like the what will just
Mhm.
follow because
Mhm.
most people aren't like, I mean, there's not like a kindergartner that's like, I want to work for Whimsy and Wellness, maybe. But like, there's just so many jobs are like so particular and,
Yeah.
that it's like, it's hard to like dream that up. It just kind of happens. But if we
Yeah.
know who we want to be and like our interests, then the what will just kind of like
Yeah.
come.
I love that. It's so true.
Yeah. We should have a
I
whole
like that
episode on that.
perspective. Yeah, we should. We will. Okay. No, that'll be put it on the agenda.
Stay tuned.
All right. So, with the Whimsy and Wellness podcast, we're really focusing on natural health and wellness, crystals, motherhood, personal growth, and female entrepreneurship. Can you tell us a little bit more about your personal journey and how it ties in with like our key themes that I mentioned?
Yeah. So, okay, natural health and wellness, I've been like super into for like 4 years now. Basically, when I was introduced to essential oils, my mind and world was kind of opened up to all the natural health and wellness stuff. And I don't know. It's a whole new world. I always say that like using essential oils and health and wellness, natural health and wellness, it's like learning another language. But so I kind of got introduced to that like 4 years ago through using essential oils. And I kind of started ditching toxic products and just kind of being more mindful and intentional about the household products and personal care products and stuff. And then as far as crystals, I didn't own any until like 3 months ago when you sent me one
Woohoo!
for Christmas. And so, yeah, I'm a newbie and I hope that that encourages listeners that like you don't have to be a professional crystaler.
Mhm.
I am coining that word. Um to belong here. So we're all at different stages. And so yeah, crystals I'm not super familiar with. I own two. And then motherhood, I became a mom in 2020 to my son Acre and yeah, motherhood motherhood, man. Yeah, moms moms know that whole statement. It's just yeah. I absolutely love it though. You asked me about like when I was a little girl and I always had a baby doll. Like I've wanted to be a mom forever. When people said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I said a mom. I always had a baby doll. I used to make my mom pretend that my baby dolls were real babies when we went into stores and I would yell at her if she called it like a doll in front of strangers. I'd be like, "Mom, Cindy is real." That was my baby's name. And one time it was pouring rain and I had Cindy with me and she had a car seat that I always buckled her into. And it was pouring rain and my mom's like, "Okay, come on, get in the car." And I'm like, "We have to buckle Cindy." And she's like, "No, throw her in." And there was like a guy next to us and he's just like horrified looking at my mom thinking that my baby was real and that like my mom's just like, "Throw her in." Oh, my poor mom. But I've always wanted to be a mom forever. And so being a mom taker is just like the absolute greatest. But it's definitely it's definitely hard sometimes for sure. Um
Yes. When you got
yeah.
to buckle Cindy in the rain.
Yeah, thankfully Cindy gave me a lot of motherhood experience. But yeah. Oh, sweet old Cindy. Okay. And then personal growth. this is something that like fires me up. And I know it's like trendy and cliche, but like I just love personal growth. Especially, I think my first introduction to it was through like self-help books. The very first one I read was You Are a Bad, You Are a Bad fill in the blank. I don't know if we have a bleeper on this show. So, but that book is by Jen Sincero, and it was so good. And it just really fired me up. And then I just kept reading more and more and more. I think I just went to like the Amazon recommended after that and read a bunch. And I love learning about marketing and entrepreneurship and mindsets and all of that. And I think personal growth can appeal to everyone, no matter what you're interested in. And so, yeah, whether it's like, even if it's just in the Enneagram, like getting to know your strengths or strength finders, that was something I like made Haylee take this summer. I'm like, okay, buy this book, buy Strength Finders. So yeah, I really love it. And female entrepreneurship, I already mentioned too, but it's definitely a passion of mine, whether it's like supporting other female entrepreneurs, or I did the essential oil business for like 3.5 years. And I was a photographer. I forgot to mention that. I did like family photography and babies and all of that for like 4 years. Of course, I have to say babies.
Little Cindy.
Maybe Cindy should make an appearance on the show or something. No, that'd be creepy. Okay. Next before I scare our listeners.
And on that note, no, thank you for sharing all of that and like kind of explaining what each of the topics are and then how they relate to you. And I feel like I love them all too.
Yay.
Personal growth. I was going to say something. Oh, I can't remember now. Never mind. Just we'll move on. You distracted me with the Cindy comments.
Oh, sorry.
I was just imagining Cindy next to you, like just little creepy doll there. Okay. So you mentioned in our trailer for the podcast that you are hoping to go deeper and more vulnerable, and that honest and raw conversations are really important to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I don't know. I've never been like a small talker. And I mean, I can small talk, but I'm not like, I can talk.
You can do all kinds of talking.
Yeah, I can talk about paint, friends. But I'm not like fueled by it, but like walking away from a deep, vulnerable conversation, I feel like my cup is like filled up, whether that's talking about someone's dreams with female entrepreneurship, or even someone's struggles, like something hard that they're going through or something like that. I've just always really loved that. And I think a lot of conversations, like I think vulnerability is really intimidating. And so it's easy to stay like surface level. But when we can like really just like go beneath that, it's hard to ever go back. Like once we know, oh, we can ask these questions. And it's also really cool. I don't know, like when you ask someone kind of like a deeper question, or just like, what's a dream you've always had? You can see them like they're kind of caught off guard because they're used to just being like, so how's the weather? But like, yeah, it's definitely, even though I enjoy all of that, I am definitely still guilty of like getting caught up in small talk. And like, I mean, I was complimenting Haley's floors before we got on because we're video on a Zoom doing this interview. And so I'm definitely not a professional at it, but it's still important to me.
I mean, I'm a small talker. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, nice. I think you're like, yeah, I think vulnerable conversations are hard for people, but I feel like it's one of your strengths, as I mentioned, like at the beginning. So do you feel like you've always been good at that? Or like, do you feel like you mentioned self-help, like maybe was it after you started reading books, or has it just been like, no, I've just always wanted to know what people's dreams are ever since I was sitting in the classroom talking to people?
I feel like I'm a very empathetic person. I've always kind of been drawn to people's stories, even like the harder parts. And even if it was like someone I didn't really know so well, I would always be like drawn to kind of like if someone was struggling, like somehow be there. But I don't think it's definitely wasn't always a strength. And it actually used to make me really uncomfortable sometimes
Mm-hmm.
to like go there with people. And because not only is like the conversation itself hard, vulnerable conversations, but just like the start of it can be hard because you could, I mean, there's the chance for someone to like close you off, like not welcome you into that conversation and like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't. And so that's like partially rejection. And that's hard, um, for sure. And I think we'll talk about this more Haylee and I are going to do an episode on grief, but I think when I myself experienced loss, I so badly wanted people to be able to like ask me truly how I was doing or just even talk about my loved one. And I could sense their uncomfortableness. And I was always just like, why, if when we run into someone in the store and we know they're going through something, but we don't say anything, which I am guilty of. I do that all the time. It's hard to go there. Um, but being on the other end of it, I guess, and knowing like that feeling of like, I just wish that they, were brave enough to say something. I try to be brave and just kind of go first and say like, how are
Mm-hmm.
you really doing?
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
a
just even a
muscle.
simple question like that is like, you can tell when someone's like, how are you? Like, just like as a normal greeting versus like they stop and look at you and they're like, how are you? It's
Yes.
like, yeah. And you get caught off guard. You're like, what? Oh, you like actually want me to tell you how I'm doing?
Yes.
And so I think that's
It's
so,
so
it's so
refreshing.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you can feel that someone like actually cares, and it's not that people who say like, "Hey, how are you?" It's not that they don't care. It's just that like we're so used to a greeting. I feel like "How are you?" has become the new hello.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like what we say. And I know for me, even my response is so, it's just like second nature now to say, good, how are you? Even if it's like
Mm-hmm.
the worst day of my life, I'm like, good, how are you?
You're
And
like, good. Okay. On to the next thing.
yeah. And so it's like refreshing when someone's like, how are you really doing? Whoa,
Mm-hmm.
like who told you what? Just
How do you know?
yeah. So I don't know. I love that quote. This is so cheesy, but I really love the quote about like leaving people better than you found them. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I just want to like live that. That's like super important to me. And so I think like being awkward and going first and being like, you can tell me if you don't want to talk about this, but
Yeah. It's part
so
of who you are, like you said, and now it's part of what you do.
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
Look at that. Just making your dreams come true over here. No,
Yes.
but like you said, that is part of who you are. And then it became part of what you do now. And that's
Yeah.
so cool because that's
Yeah.
just something that you truly, really believe in. And which is ultimately why I knew you were the perfect host.
Thank
Full
you.
circle.
Full circle. Yes.
Okay, so we'll get to some fun questions now. Not that those weren't fun, those were also very fun. But
Yeah. They were
you
deep.
do rap. Yeah, exactly. We were being trying to be vulnerable, like you do, inspire me to do. Okay, so you do some rapid fire questions with our guests and with me when I'm on the show as well. So I wanted to do some with you so that we can
Okay.
get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, if you could choose 3 words to describe yourself, what would they be?
Ooh, this is hard. I would say, so I always describe myself as a wildflower because
Mhm.
like wildflowers aren't planted, they just like pop up. And that is very much part of my story. Like I dropped out of college. I had a baby before I was married.
Mhm.
I just, yeah, a lot of what I have done with my life isn't like the traditional path, but it's still beautiful, just like wildflowers. Like just because they're not planted and like on purpose doesn't mean anything. And so I think wildflower, oh my gosh, I talk so much. I can't just give like a one word answer.
No, I like it. I like it. That one needed an explanation.
Yeah, yeah.
It was warranted.
Okay, so wildflower, then I would say, I guess like witty and like compassionate, I guess.
Perfect. I love those.
Okay.
I would agree.
Thanks.
Okay, so when you're not hosting the Whimsy and Wellness podcast, what are you doing?
Well, being a mom takes up a lot of time.
100% of the
Yeah,
time?
that's probably like what I'm mostly doing. If you guys were a fly on the wall, I would be taking care of Acre, because he's 10 months old, so he keeps me quite busy. And then Cindy, she keeps me. I'm just kidding. People are gonna be so confused and like, is Cindy her kid or who is Cindy? Nope, Cindy was my baby doll.
Yep.
Okay. I also, besides motherhood, which does take up a lot of time, I love baking. I don't like cooking, but I do love baking. And reading. I love walks outside, like on local, like nature trails and stuff like that. But don't mistake that with hiking because I'm always nervous about like bears or so. And so like I like to say walks in nature, but not so far as hiking because I don't want bears up in my walk. So that and talking with friends, family. Surprise, surprise. I feel like I'm not that interesting for this question, but that's what
No,
you
I like that. I feel it the same when people are like, what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
great question.
Yeah.
What do I like to do for fun?
I
But I
know.
was laughing so hard about that you're worried about bears because the next question I'm going to ask you is what's your Enneagram number? And I already know it. And so I was laughing because of
Yes.
you being afraid of bears.
Yes, it's so on point. So if you Enneagram people out there know the Enneagram, I'm sure you're guessing right. So I'm a 6. um, I'm a 6 with a very strong 7 wing. For a while, I couldn't figure out if I was a 6 or a 7. I felt like 50-50. But I think for sure at my core, I'm a 6. I think I just lean on my 7 wing very heavily. And I have like no 5 anywhere in me. So
For
yeah.
people that aren't familiar with Enneagram, could you say just like a very short description of what a typical Enneagram 6?
Yes. So the Enneagram 6 is the loyalist. They're like, well, the reason Haley like made that joke is because 6s are like stereotypical like worriers, worst case scenario, like, and not like pessimistic, but just like always kind of preparing, like it's on their mind what could go wrong. And so every time I'm on a hike or a walk, I'm like looking left and right for like bobcats or bears and I'm like in upstate New York, like there's probably not going to be a bear on our hike. But like most people are just like, oh wow, look at the hills and the tall green grass. And I'm just like looking for grizzlies. So yeah, they are like that. And then I actually, a lot of 6s are like witty. So that's kind of funny that I chose that word now that I'm thinking about this. Is that a good description of a 6? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. My husband Russ is a 6 as well. So I feel like I know a little bit.
Russ and I relate.
Yeah.
In our 6 way.
Yeah. But I mean, you talk about like worst case scenario thinking, which 6s tend to do, but like I don't do that ever. And so it's actually very helpful when Russ is like, oh, well, did you think about this? And I'm like, no, I actually did not. So thank you for thinking of that so that we can, talk through it. So I feel like some people consider it, a weakness or a strength, but it really is dependent on the scenario because we really need all the different types of people to do all the different things.
Yeah, I agree. And I always like, I always get, I guess, like defensive when people like say that sixes are like so scared in worst case scenario, because I'm definitely not like outwardly always like that. But like you said with Russ, like because I also feel like I'm very prepared when something does go
Mm-hmm.
wrong because I have
Mm-hmm.
thought it through, so like in that way, it's a strength. Sometimes, I
Yes.
mean, the anxiety of having it always happen is hard, but like, yeah, when something does go wrong, I'm like the first one to be like, okay, this is what we do. Everything's fine.
Uh-huh.
And so we
Yeah.
definitely need all the types for sure. That was a
Yes, we
good
do.
point.
Yeah. So I just always like to say that. The other few weeks ago, the power went out at our house,
Mhm.
and literally within 30 seconds, Russ had appeared with all the flashlights in our home, turning them all on, doing all this. Like, and I was like, oh, see, I'm so thankful because I don't even know where a flashlight is in our house.
Yes.
So we need them. We need them. We need people
Yes.
like that.
Yes. If you guys don't know the Enneagram, definitely look it up. There's only 9 types and you can figure out your own type. And it's definitely a rabbit hole of a
Mhm.
topic, but it's really fun to do.
A rabbit hole of self-growth,
Yes,
and it's amazing.
it
Yeah.
is.
Okay. What is your favorite book right now or of all time? You choose.
Okay. I would say either it's a tie between Love Warrior and Untamed, which are both by Glennon Doyle. I love
Okay.
Glennon Doyle so much. And so I would say it's a tie between those two.
Okay.
But I
I
do
think I
love
own.
Brene Brown. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she's my girl.
She just did a heart sign with her hands for those of you that are not watching the video, just so you know what's happening, why we're laughing. What is your favorite podcast besides the one that you host? Ours, of course.
Of course. Okay, so I said I love Brene. So I love Unlocking Us. Her podcast, I think that's been out like a year. That's really good. And then she has a new one called Dare to Lead on leadership. And I really like that too. She's just a really great teacher. And like I said, I love personal growth. And then the Ed Milet show, I really like too. And okay, sorry I talk so much, but the Ed Milet show, if you're not familiar, he's like a very masculine man. And at the end of each episode, he says, "Max out, everybody." And so the other night, Dave and I were joking that like at the end of the Whimsy Wellness podcast, I just be like, "This is the Whimsy Wellness podcast. Max out, everybody." So that's funny. But I love his show. He asks really, really great questions and he has some great guests on. But I always giggle when he says, "Max out, everybody." So
What does that even mean?
I guess it just means like do your best.
Do your best.
I think so.
Max out. I'm going to start saying that too. I like it.
I
Way better
know.
than do your best.
Me
Max
too.
out.
Have a great day. Like max out. And he says it in this really deep voice that just makes you feel like I'm gonna max out for sure. Uh, and then I have so many. Oprah, Super Soul Conversations, I love, and Goop. I'll stop there.
All right. Those are good ones to, yeah. I started listening to Dare to Lead after you said that too. And I've really been liking it too. So
Yeah.
they're good recommendations, especially for people who like are maybe new to podcasts or like, I don't know what to listen to. Or I feel like, true crime is like kind of what you hear about with podcasts. And it's like, I don't want to listen to that all the time. I need some new stuff.
I know.
So
and my
these are
sixth
good.
self is like, I can't listen to true crime. Like I'm already afraid of like someone on my roof out the window. Like I don't need to hear about it in my earbuds.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
no
I
judgment to
agree.
true crime fans.
Yeah. 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 There's a time and a place for it, but
Yes.
for me, it's not all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. What would a dream guest be to have on the show? If you could just choose one.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm trying to think who. I have 3, so I'm trying to choose between my 3.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is so hard. Because what if one of them comes on and I didn't see that? Okay, I'm going to say Glennon Doyle.
Okay.
I love
That
her.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, her books were your favorite.
Yeah, I love her. So
Yeah, that would be really cool.
forgive me, Brene and Taylor Swift. Okay.
Okay. What is your favorite oil right now?
So right now I've been crushing on sage,
Mm-hmm.
but not like by itself. I like it diffused with other things like orange or lavender or patchouli, that kind of thing. And then my favorite blend right now is Harmony, which is a Young Living blend that is like has a bunch of floral oils in it. It's kind of pricey, so my tip is to buy it with Essential Rewards points if you're a Young Living member. And you can always just Google search what's in Harmony, and you could try to make it yourself.
It does smell really good.
It is.
Yeah.
That's my favorite right now. I can't answer like broad
all time.
It's too hard.
I agree. That's why I said right now. So
yeah.
I saved you.
Thank you.
Okay. You mentioned that you're new to crystals. So this might be either really easy because you only own 2 or really hard because you're just not sure. But what's your favorite crystal right now?
Oh, for sure. Sunstone. I can answer that. I don't know why, because I'm not a crystaler, but
you are.
I've always been drawn to Sunstone. Like the past few months, I texted Haylee like months ago and was like, "Do you have any Sunstone?"
And we did.
And you were like, "I just got a shipment actually," and I'm just like, "Put me down." Yeah. I don't know why. I was so drawn to it. Well, I know why, because crystals have energy, and I was drawn to its energy. And I Googled Sunstone to kind of see like what it does and all of that. And it was so crazy. Like I have an awful memory, so I can't tell you. I think it's like creativity and courage, which I thought was crazy because like, you know, my Enneagram 6, sometimes I need some courage. I don't know. It was just really crazy. So that's my favorite right now. And so pretty.
Yeah. I love that. I think that exactly what you did is how you should kind of start with crystals, especially if you're like, I don't know anything about them. I don't know what to do. It's like, so where did you first see or Sunstone originally?
I feel like I saw it on Instagram or something.
Okay. So you were just drawn to a picture, like you never even saw it in person.
Yeah. Yeah. It was only a picture.
Yeah. So for people like, if you don't have a crystal shop near you or anything, and that's okay. Like you could just look at pictures and be like, this one, like this is the one that's calling to me for whatever reason. And then, you know, you mentioned you Googled it and read about it, and I would say like 9 times out of 10, when you read about it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like spot on.
Yeah.
So crazy.
It is.
My mom did the same thing with a crystal recently. She was like, what? This is crazy. She's like, this is kind of creepy. I was like, well,
yeah.
You were drawn to it.
It's super weird. It's cool.
Well, I love hearing stories like that. So thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Okay. What is your late night guilty pleasure?
Oh, for sure. Justin's peanut butter cups. Okay. They are, oh my gosh. If you haven't tried them, like, oh, and it has to be the dark chocolate, unless you're like a dark chocolate hater, but it is, I mean, I like milk chocolate, but the dark chocolate ones are just unreal. I have a stash next to my chair in the living room, which I sound like such an 80-year-old saying next to my chair, but that I hide from Dave in a basket. Like I have it tucked under things so he doesn't eat them. And at night, I just like slide my hand in my basket and take out my Justin's peanut butter cup. They're so good.
I just am picturing that. And I feel like for me, it's like, that's what I do from my kids, not from Ross. It's just funny.
It'll probably one day be from Acre once he discovers it. But
it will be. You have to literally like hide really a lot.
Yeah.
One time my niece, before I had my own kids, was like, what are you eating? You're like, nothing. She's like, open your mouth. Like, I can see. It's like, okay.
Open your mouth. Yeah, it's, and they're like more expensive than your ordinary peanut butter cups. And so that's why I hide them from Dave. I'm not like an awful person, but they're just expensive and he doesn't know any different. He'll just like It doesn't
yeah.
matter.
He
But
doesn't appreciate
Justin's,
it.
yeah, he doesn't appreciate the delicacy that they are.
Yeah. Mhm. They
And
deserve to be hidden from him.
yeah, and they have ruined other peanut butter cups for me. Like I used to love all peanut butter cups, and Justin's set the bar so high that now I'm like a peanut butter cup snob.
Wow.
I don't
Maybe
know.
we need to reach out to them for an ad because you just like
Yes. I could give the most genuine
we're like unsponsored.
yes.
Unsponsored
Yes.
review right now.
This isn't sponsored, but I feel
But
bad.
maybe someday.
I feel bad people are probably listening and now craving them. I hate when people
Yeah.
post desserts on Instagram stories late at night because I'm like, why did you do that? Now I want it. That's so rude.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. All right. Well, after this, we'll all be going getting peanut butter cups of the
Yes.
Justin variety.
I wish I could watch
Okay.
their sales. Just give up today.
Oh, okay. Last question.
Okay.
What is a fun fact about you that we may not know?
Okay. Well, you know this, but other people might not know that I was an Irish dancer for 7 years and I like competed and all of that.
That's so cool.
That's my fun fact.
So
yeah.
fun. We're going to have to put a link to your dancing in the show notes or something.
Oh gosh. I used to like wear the wig and everything.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know there were wigs involved.
Yeah, because you
Now
have
we have to
curly
have
hair.
a photo.
Oh, I think they're lost.
Be vulnerable. Be brave.
Yeah,
Put it up.
vulnerable. Okay, I for sure. It is a fun pastime. It's just the wigs aren't
No,
my best moment. Plus, like a lot of people tan their legs, and I am like the palest person ever. Most in the winter, you can pretty much just see all of my veins. I'm that pale, and so it's just like the orange legs. This wasn't good.
Oh man, that's the best. That's the perfect way to end this. So thank you so much for sharing all of these things about yourself. I learned so much. And I loved
Yes. I hope that it was entertaining.
it. It was definitely entertaining. We'll be sure to put up those photos in the show
Yeah.
notes ASAP.
No.
And yeah, I hope you guys had fun getting to know your host a little bit more. And thank you so much for listening.
Yes. Thanks, guys.